San Francisco school is exquisite.
The San Francisco school is my home.
The San Francisco school is a unique oasis.
San Francisco school is fun.
Everyone in the community is so respectful and kind.
The only school I've actually been to, but it's the best school I've ever been to.
It's very nice to be at a school like this.
They're very similar sounding letters, and they make similar sounds. Have you taken coding lessons for 2 years? Okay. Yeah. All right.
I like how I'm kind of friends with all the grades. All the grades are always really nice to me, and I get included in every single one. I feel like it's just a really good community.
You get to know everybody, the teachers know you, and that's what makes SFS special.
I feel like the culture that SFS creates, the values that I learned at SFS are very informative in my life today.
I have a lot of favorite classes, but I like art and math.
My favorite academic class is science.
The music program, singing time, being able to learn music in such a unique way is something that I still think about to this day.
I really love the teachers. They make learning fun, and it just is really nice because you get to know them too.
I just love the kitchen. They give extraordinary food.
Good evening. Thank you for being here with us. We know you might be in the middle of dinner time or bedtime or something like that. So we're hoping that you need to step away. You feel free to do that. The hope for tonight is that we take a deeper dive into the curriculum. We hope at this point that you've had a chance to enter an info session or maybe come and visit us on a tour. So what's been missing is hearing from our teachers. So tonight, we hope that you hear from our amazing teachers and hear what's going on in the classrooms. So at this point, I would like to pass it on to Juna, our head of school.
Thank you so much for being here, and welcome to our curriculum open house. I'm Juna McDade, head of school, and I am particularly excited for this evening because first and foremost, we are here to educate children through a robust curriculum. We are able to provide an excellent and enriching program because we have dedicated and creative teachers who believe in the intellectual, imaginative, and humanitarian promise of each child. I can't wait for you to meet them soon. But before you do, I'm going to start at the end of our students' journeys by zooming forward to talk about where our students go after SFS. Before our team brings us back to where the journey begins, which is in our preschool and kindergarten programs. We share these slides with you, not as a humble boast, because honestly, you could participate in any admissions event at pretty much any independent school in the city, and you would likely see a lot of the same schools on their slides. Our students go to a diverse array of high schools and colleges, from small private schools to parochial schools, to even big public schools. So choosing SFS means that yes, your child will have options for high school and college that will provide what they need and want. So what sets SFS apart, and how do we get to them to that point where they can find success in high school and in college and beyond? So our students are known, and they also know themselves well with a supportive system of adults behind them. So in every year at SFS, they learn who they are, how they learn, and how to advocate for themselves. This is evident in their day-to-day here, as well as in the process of choosing the best place for the next stage of their development. I am excited for you to see how we start this process from the earliest years in preschool and in kindergarten, directly from our teachers, and the administrators who are here to support each child in their journey. So without further ado, I don't want to take up any more time because the teachers and our division heads are certainly the show tonight. So I will turn it over to Stuart Dorsey, head of lower school, and Laura Bridges Pereira, our head of preschool and director of special programs, to start to answer this question of what makes SFS so special.
All right, thank you, Juna. So yeah, I'm Stuart Dorsey, head of lower school. and maybe I'll start and then pass it to Laura. But I think one of the themes that we hope comes through tonight is talking about social emotional learning. And one way that we talk about it here at school is we don't really just talk with the kids about what do you want to be when you grow up. That's one question, but it's really who do you want to be when you grow up. We know that we could have the strongest math program in the country, and we think we've got a great math program. But if our students don't leave here able to apply those skills, to use problem-solving skills, to be able to work collaboratively with one another, to think creatively, to solve problems, those math skills would go for naught. For a long time now, we've known we're preparing kids for an uncertain future, and all that the last few years have told us is how true that is. And so when we talk with kids about leaving, not just thinking about what they want to do, but who they want to be, we feel like they've got that full range of skills that's going to equip them to navigate the future. So some of the traits that we think about here at school are resilience, flexibility, adaptability, and compassion. And when we couple those with the academic skills, we feel like that's really what the tool belt that they're going to need to succeed. Gone are the days where we talk about soft skills and hard skills. They're all equally important. They're all really intertwined with one another. And I hope that as you hear our teachers talking, you see that distinction is really one that we don't think too much about as well. But we know how important it is to have both of those kinds of skills, both the social emotional and the academic, complementing one another. So that's just one piece that I wanted to highlight, thinking also about Juna's list of kind of who our kids are when they leave. But at this point, I will turn it over to Laura.
Hi, I'm Laura Bridges Pereira. Most people call me LBP on campus. And I think what we spend, or I know what we spend a lot of time on at SFS is really, changing this image that you see on the screen in front of you. This is what people think success looks like, but we really know that it looks more like this next image that you're going to see. Madeline Levine, who's a doctorate in child development at the Stanford's Graduate School of Education, really described that we need to reframe how success looks for kids, because that really does contribute positively to that who that Stuart was just talking about in the previous slide. Really specifically, Dr. Levine talks about success and how in the past years, we've really thought about this idea of a narrow and very unrealistic definition of success. It's, that trajectory straight up. And that in reality harms kids. And that is not what we're all about in education. So unlike a straight trajectory, most of our paths, if we think about ourselves, were really sort of these squiggly, splodgy lines. And the swerves and the dips and the curls and the whirls represent different things, like times when perhaps something didn't go the way you thought it would go, or a moment when you failed, or a wandering, an obstacle that you overcame, or perhaps a challenge that you met and you did kind of move forward in some way. So these swerves and dips are what we hope for kids, because they really provide us opportunities to learn, to grow, and to gain skills and resilience and grit and the things that we need to be successful. And we think that path to success looks more like this second image here.
Thank you, Laura. All right, kind of the plan for tonight. We are going to hear from Stacy in our preschool program, and then we'll hear from Dolores and Ginny. They'll tell us about our kindergarten program. And then after that, we'll kind of hear from elementary and beyond. We'll hear from Xiaojin in our math program. LBP will be back to speak about our art program. James will speak about music, and we'll hear from Jalen with STEAM and Adriana with Spanish. And then we'll get to hear from Melissa about some of our cultural rituals and tradition. And then our VIP guests will be our alumni panel at the end, where we'll get to ask them some questions and hear about their experience. So at this time, I would like to pass the mic to Stacy Lee, our Preschool 3 head teacher.
Thank you, Tony. Hi, everyone. Yes, like Tony said, I'm Stacy Lee, Preschool 3 head teacher. And so our preschool program really just focuses, especially in the Preschool 3, it's all about play, and everything that we do in our program focuses our curriculum around the play. Oh, here's our teaching team. Sorry. Yeah. So we believe children are, you just go to the next one. It's fine, Tony. Yeah. We believe children are curious, capable, and creative and learn best through play. Our learning environments offer fun, open-ended, and challenging activities and materials for children to explore at their own pace. We celebrate diversity, address social justice issues, and teach empathy. And children learn in different ways, so we strive to inspire a passion for learning in all children. And so even in this picture, you'll see different children doing different things, and really it's all they're really using is a shovel, some water, and the dirt, right? And the children in the front, they're probably creating a river. The children in the back are probably creating a pond. You know, they're definitely figuring out how to keep the water afloat, how to make sure the sand's not falling in, right? So it's a lot of problem solving and working together. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. All right, play is an essential element in learning, and children develop social skills while playing. Play offers real life problem solving opportunities. Play inspires imagination and role play. Play fosters vocabulary, language development. Play promotes collaboration, communication, compassion, and flexibility. All right, so in this picture, you'll notice there's quite a few children in this small space, right? And they're navigating with each other, like who gets to sit in the front, who gets to use the phone. If you look closely enough, there's only so many of the small chairs, but another child wanted to be included. So how did they solve that problem? Well, hey, you know, they found this adult chair that they could pull over, and there was another seat for another child, right? And so they're constantly negotiating with each other, just like, okay, in 2 minutes, how about we take turns? How about, you know, I'll be the cook in the back, you all are sitting in the bus, or whatever it is that their play is, right? And so it's constantly evolving throughout the day. Okay, go ahead, next slide. Social emotional learning is another big part of our preschool curriculum, right? It's the connection before content. Before any learning can happen, we focus on building authentic relationships with our preschoolers, right? The teachers with the preschoolers, but the children with each other. Children learn to make friends, ask to play, and be inclusive. Children learn to recognize, name, and manage their emotions. So we really use our Kimochi's curriculum, where we use these dolls to, I guess, identify and show the different feelings that we have and how to manage them. They learn problem-solving skills. The preschoolers develop empathy and learn to advocate for self and others, right? And so, like, it's basically like if they see something is not quite right, they will speak up for themselves if somebody is doing something that they don't like, right? And they're learning how to still, again, problem solve with each other or ask to take turns, right? And sometimes it's them, like, they might have the big feeling, right, where they get really mad in the moment, but part of their learning is, okay, I'm mad. Am I going to hit the person? No, right? It's, I'm mad. I'm going to stop. I'm going to take some deep breaths, and I'm going to solve the problem with a friend, which is I'm going to tell them, I didn't really like when you took my toy, right? And the friend might say, okay, well, I wanted a turn. Can I have a turn? And usually it's then, okay, you can have a turn when I'm done. And typically with these kids at this age, the turn is done in like 2 seconds. They just really wanted that power of saying, you couldn't have it yet because I was still using it. I just didn't like the way you tried to just grab it from me, right? And so a lot of that is happening as part of their play, as part of their social emotional learning. We also do the power of yet, right? An ongoing theme in our classroom is the power of yet. We all have things we can't do yet, right? Through various books and activities, the students develop and foster the growth mindsets, and making mistakes help our brains grow, right? So even the teachers, we make mistakes, and we might say, oh, I made a mistake. That's okay, right? Another thing that we use is no biggie as a way to just show like it's okay, right? Whenever the children say, I can't do this, we say, well, you can't do it yet, right? You're still learning, you're still working, keep practicing, and you'll be able to do it. I mean, especially when you see them do those monkey bars for the very first time, they're these tiny little people who can barely reach that monkey bar, right? But if they're determined enough, they can do it. Okay, next slide. Our preschool academics literacy, so carefully carrying a tray, pouring water, returning a toy to its proper place, taking turns. Those all build the strong academic habits like concentration, memory, patience, and sense of order. We foster a love for literacy by reading picture books for fun and to teach content. All through the day, kids can read books with friends or alone, and which they really do. They love looking at those books, and they're pretty much reenacting what they see on the pages, which is fun and exciting for them. We teach phonemic awareness and phonics instructions via Sound of the Week, sandpaper letters, and a Montessori movable outfit. So I don't know if any of you have come in on tours when we've done Sound of the Week. And what we try to do is really isolate the sound that they're learning that week. So if the sound is ah, right? So we'll raise our hands when we hear it, so that at least they see. Sometimes the children, if they're really in tune, they can do both. But let's be honest, they're typically 3 and 4. That's hard to do, to really sound out apple and go ah, oh, apple. Even the adults kind of struggle with that. But it's about them really getting that repetitiveness in it, and it'll sink in, right? It's like that subliminal teaching that we do, right? We teach pencil grip and formation of numbers and capital letters. The preschoolers express their thinking through pictures, dictation, and best guess writing. We don't focus on all those English rules like I before E, except after C, all those things. We want the kids to be able to just express themselves and not get blocked, not get stuck, right? Like if they're so focused on trying to spell each word correctly as they're trying to frame a sentence, they'll get stuck, and then they'll get frustrated. And that's not what we want. We want them to be engaged in their learning and feel proud of the fact that they drew a picture to express what they were thinking, or were able to start writing words. And even if a word like apple is spelled APL, we know that's the sound, apple, right? And so for them, it makes sense. All right, we can go to the next one. I think this is the last one. Our numeracy. Our math area is filled with fun objects, inviting exploration, counting, and sorting. Right, so as you can see in the first picture, there's the Montessori sandpaper numbers, and there's objects for children to count. And we try to have them really organize it, because typically when children first start, it's all over the place, and then they lose track. And so really keeping them organized where they're counting in a row. They learn the number symbols and one-to-one correspondence. We focus on the power of 5, right? And so we use different things like 5 frames and 10 frames and Montessori number games and number bead racks. So like here's a bead rack of 5, right? The children will count maybe 2, 1, 2, and then they'll see like, oh, 3 more, that equals 5, right? That's part of their math. And we have other ones that have 10, right? The 10 bead racks. So they'll count 3, and then they know 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 more together make 10. And so they constantly get practice with that. And eventually the hope is that they just kind of know those math facts to 5 to 10, all those things, right? And they learn patterns and graphing and geometry. We encourage all children to express their mathematical thinking in pictures and words. So they'll even draw circles or hearts as part of their math. If they're doing 2 + 3, they draw like a smiley face, 2 smiley faces, and then 3 smiley faces. There are many ways we reach an answer, right? So however the child expresses their math thinking, right? That's okay. We encourage it all. We sing many counting songs that playfully introduce addition and subtraction. So if you ever heard the song like 5 speckled frogs, right? 1 jumped into the pool and now there's only 4. So they're constantly subtracting down to pretty much, then they get to 0. And so that's our preschool curriculum. I think that's it.
Thank you, Stacy. At this point, I'd like to introduce our kindergarten teaching team, Dolores and Jenny. So you are up next.
Hi, everybody. I am Jenny Bernstein. I am one of the kindergarten co-head teachers.
And I'm Dolores Elkin. I am the other kindergarten co-head teacher, and I love team teaching with Jenny.
we even got together tonight to be with each other because
we love it so.
we love it
So on our team, we also have other teachers because in kindergarten, as in elementary, there are other teachers. So there's Tiffany Russell, the art teacher, and these are teachers that the children go to. So they go to an art class. They go to health and wellness, which you might know as PE, with Taylor Chato. They go. Well, actually, Spanish comes in our room and then we leave. But Adriana comes in for Spanish, and they have, it's called the Learning Commons in that slide, but really Lisa's a librarian. We have a super, yes, thank you, a super learning services team. You can see them all here. Maggie, Kim, and Elise work with language arts and mathematics. They both push into the classroom and help out with whole groups or half groups when we're teaching their twos. And they also do small group pull out for our classroom. And Melissa works with social emotional learning. So really critical and very well appreciated by us. And as well as you've heard Stuart and everyone talking about how important social emotional learning is to the San Francisco School. Next slide, please. So what is kindergarten in the San Francisco all about? It's as you've heard a few times, it's inspiring a passion for learning in all of the students. We're encouraging curiosity and looking around and growing through structured academics, but play-based learning, a lot of play. We foster independence. It starts when they're 3, continues when they're 4, and becomes more independent as they get older. And we're empowering our students with this to take the ownership of their own learning and their own academic and social emotional learning. And we strive to cultivate the social justice oriented citizens, and they are all about what's fair. So this is really easy for them. Next slide, please.
So in kindergarten, children begin to develop their identities as readers and writers. So we have daily writing and reading instruction, and it's combined with explicit phonemic awareness and phonics instruction. So this happens through small group and our co-teaching model. We're able to differentiate. So that means like to adjust the lessons so we can meet the different needs, interests, and learning levels of all our students. And in this picture, you'll see an example of what that explicit phonics instruction looks like. So a student here is practicing their phonemic awareness with a movable alphabet. So we tap the sounds in a word and blend them to say the word. And then the student moves the magnetic letters to spell the word. So for example, if we hold up our hand and we say D-A-G, dog, then they spell D-O-G below. Next slide, please.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about math in kindergarten, and the elementary school uses the Context for Learning Mathematics program. We have whole group math lessons and half group math lessons as well, and we really want it to be authentic and very manipulative based math. So there's always an object, or you saw the math racks that Stacy held up. Those are from Context for Learning Mathematics, the math racks. We review 5 because even though they've used it when they were 4, they kind of need a little review. And so actually, if you look at the bottom slide there, the bottom photo, there's children who probably had just had a lesson and they've got the 5 rack, and it's the beginning of October because those are little jack-o'-lanterns they're cutting apart. First, they built it on the rack. Then they're getting a little more abstract. They're switching to paper image of cutting into the 3 plus 2, let's say, and then they're getting one step more abstract and they're writing the 3 and the 2 and the plus sign. So it's built up on what they've been doing earlier in their math program in preschool. They will be composing and decomposing numbers to 20 by the end of the year with addition and subtraction. They name and describe their 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional shapes. They have exposure of numbers to 100. They love to count to 100 by 10s, and they're working on 5s too. Graphing and reading graphs are more complex, clearly, in kindergarten than they would be in preschool. They're really using patterns within the number system and actually for reading and writing. So, but in math, they're using patterns to recognize the symbols in the number system. Next slide, please.
So Tony, I did see a hand. Is this something we should stop, or are you going to do that towards the end?
Yeah, you can drop questions in the chat and then we'll try to answer them at the end.
Just want to make sure we didn't miss anything. Thanks. So social emotional learning, it's the process of acquiring the skills to recognize and manage emotions, develop empathy, make responsible decisions, establish positive relationships, and handle challenging situations effectively. Wow, that is a lot of work our kids are doing each and every day, and it's happening each and every day. So our SEL learning equips students with the necessary skills and tools to be successful in the classroom and beyond. So we infuse this SEL throughout our day and all year long through play, through stories, puppets, explicit lessons, and small social skills groups with our educational therapist. Another tool we use, as you can see in the corner there, is called the Zones of Regulation. It's a specific curriculum that moves through the grades. So it starts in preschool, and it's very specific to each grade. So it kind of builds on itself as the years go on with the students. The curriculum, it's a framework. It's organized around 4 colored zones, the blue, green, yellow, and red. And it describes our feelings, energy, and emotions. So it's really how, the students learn to regulate through those zones. So it meets the goal and task demands, as well as support their overall well-being. So here at SFS, we really strive to build a foundation for students to be able to understand and manage their emotions, establish positive relationships, develop empathy for others, and set and achieve goals to feel good about themselves. So next slide, please, Tony. Thanks. So the power of play. So a lot of social emotional learning happens through play. Play is such an essential component of learning here at SFS. Play is centered around student-led discovery and exploration. Play provides students real-life problem-solving opportunities and allows for authentic social skill development. A child's work is play, and at SFS, it is joyful. And powerful learning is happening each and every day. Next slide, please. And then you can see them kind of in action there. Very cool.
Okay, the next slide, please. So the social justice in the kindergarten curriculum and classroom, we use Learning for Justice standards to guide the anti-bias education, and that's broken up into 4 domains: identity, diversity, justice, and action. So we've just kind of wrapped up our identity unit the past 60 days. We count the days. We reached day 60. It was a big deal today. And it's all about me, but it's all about us too. So not only, they're very egocentric at this age still. So it is about themselves, and that's really important, but it's also that we're part of a group and something bigger. And so that's really how we begin the year. And we move through the course of the year. At the end of the year, there's actually a unit on what is an activist, what does it mean to be an activist, and how can I be an activist? And they learn about different activists in history and the present, and they learn about some, well, they were teenagers when they were activists, like Malala. And so then they compare a little bit, and we do this through stories and discussions, and there's a lot of really good picture books out there. You can see some of the writing up there from last year. Harvey Milk, he actually didn't make the symbol of the rainbow flag, but that's what they understood from the story, and it's close enough. He was excited about having a symbol, and I forget his friend's name who made it. Do you remember? Okay, well, anyway, we incorporate these standards with, throughout the thinking about social justice throughout the year, all the time. And certainly, like I mentioned, fairness and justice is very big in a kindergartner's mind. And being part of a community and having our own identity, building traditions. The school has beautiful, amazing traditions, and being an activist themselves. As you can see in the bottom photo there that we took this year, there was an election day, and the library teacher, Lisa, she thought, wouldn't it be fun if the elementary students voted on their favorite book character to be president of the United States? So they narrowed it down to about 5 picture books, which she read to them and discussed with all of, kinder through 5th grade. The 5th graders, I think 5th or 4th graders came down and actually registered each and every one of our kindergartners to vote. The third grader buddies, they picked up our kids and brought them in with their buddy, and they checked at the front desk, and it was just like when you go vote. They had their name checked that they'd been registered. Then they went to these little corrals that are just like when you go to vote. It was amazing because every year it's a little different, but I was really impressed. And they voted. They did have help because they had to read how you make that line, you know. And then they folded it up, and the elementary kids made these cute little voting boxes, and you can see one of our students popping her vote in. And I heard that Tacky the Penguin was the winner this year. And that's the end of our presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dolores. Thank you, Jenny. That was great. All right. Next up, we have Zhao Zhen presenting on our math program.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you, Tony, for having me to talk a little bit about our math program. I have been at the San Francisco School since 2015, and I am in 7th and 8th grade math teacher, as well as the middle school math coordinator, program coordinator. So although I will be speaking mostly from our middle school math perspective, I'm just so delighted to hear the connection between the middle school math and what I've been hearing from Stacy and Dolores and Jenny. And I'd be really delighted to share with you these connections, the through line in our math program from preschool to middle school and beyond middle school to high school, prepare students for high school as well. So let's go to the next slide. There is a slide on number 30, the one before that. Sorry, I think I'm seeing. Yeah. So the San Francisco School's mission is very much aligned with what we do in the math department. And our goal as the math department is really to cultivating and celebrating the intellectual, imaginative, and humanitarian promise of each student mathematically. Right? If we could go to the next slide. Many of us growing up probably have had some little bit here or there, some math experience that were not the most, I would say, positive or the one we want to remember. But so when we think of math, a lot of people also think of words like formulas or procedures or maybe pages and pages of practice problems, maybe timed tests or multiplication tables, right? Those things that we tend to associate math with. And we agree that math is a lot about procedural fluency. And at the same time, we see math also as beauty, as game, as invent, as play, as curiosity, as imagination, and as absorbing, as making mistakes, and growth mindset, and all of these things as well. So how do we do that? How do we cultivate those in our day-to-day math classroom? If we could go to the next slide. Yeah, Tony, maybe we can play just for the first few minutes of this video. Earlier, as Dolores and Jenny shared, that we use this curriculum in the lower school called Contexts for Learning Mathematics. It is a very powerful math curriculum, and it teaches math through contexts. So students will be posed with a math problem every day, or they have these problems every unit that are to do with a situation, a story, a scenario. For example, they're coming back from a field trip and they need to split up all the sandwiches in a van to students. So in that context, students have to figure out ratios, fractions, and equity also, how to divide things evenly. So this is just a little bit of a snippet of our elementary math curriculum. Yeah.
In first grade right now, we're doing an investigation. This was day 4 of it, where the students are building the open number line, which is a model that we use to think about numbers. So we use a measurement to get there. It's again set in the context of an art show. So we're trying to measure these different art pieces to decide how big the labels need to be for them. When I first picked up this curriculum, I felt worried about the amount of conversation that was supposed to be taking place. I did not think the first graders would be able to sustain that amount of like sitting and discussing or be motivated by it. And that was what surprised me the most, is they are beyond motivated by it. So it's giving them this real world problem that they have to solve, and they will sit and discuss for hours. Like, I have to cut them off.
So that's presenting the 15 tenths, and then if you kept going, there's still a 1 in the ones column. 7, 8, 9, 10.
Uncle Lloyd and Grandma Eudora started to sort the nickels and quarters.
So you and your partner need to figure out how you can divide these up so that there is equal money for each trip.
And divide these into equal parts. They have to be the same amount. That doesn't mean they have to be the exact same coins that make no. So we can do something different.
Show me what you're thinking.
What you saw earlier was this unit called Trades and Jumps, which the kids were working with money, but it's much richer than that. It's not just recognizing the coins and being able to count them, but the unit is actually an early algebra unit. So along with being able to recognize all those coins, it's really about kind of understanding equivalence, that even things look different, they can still be equivalent. And it also starts to get at unknown variables and what that looks like as we bring in foreign coins and we don't know how much they are. And so there's these pieces of algebra that can start really early that this program really emphasizes, with the idea that you can build this really strong foundation so that when the kids get up into 8th grade, into high school, they already have a lot of that in place.
So my students are working on a fractions unit from Context for Learning Mathematics. And so today what they were doing is figuring out how to split up these sub-sandwiches so that each person in a group gets the same amount. And then they're comparing that group with another group and seeing who got more and if it was fair. And then once they've felt like they have good proof and have an answer that supports the question or the problem, then they're making these posters. And you use this thing called a landscape for learning. So it basically is showing you the scope of where students' learning should be going. And I'm kind of seeing the learning points for that lesson, and I'm pulling ideas from their posters, and we'll talk about those. It's not me telling them this is equivalence. It's them actually figuring it out for themselves and creating the language around that and discussion around it and pictures and models, and it's pretty incredible.
So context is really about models and thinking about how models develop and how that helps kids grow.
It's really looking at the relationship with numbers and number sense and the foundation of building that, as opposed to just procedures and routines.
And so a lot of the models we've been using, as Elise
Thank you, Tony. Yes, that's a perfect place to stop. I think you got the idea of how joyful this curriculum really, the joy instills in our classroom, as you heard such young kids talking about math with so much enthusiasm. And I will say that the same enthusiasm actually carries through in our middle school program. And very much the context, the idea of context also, and the idea of studying algebra through context is very much starting with 6th grade as well. So here in the 6th grade, our scope and sequence for the 6th grade, it actually includes all the Common Core 6th grade standards, as well as about a third of the 7th grade standards. Okay? So you'll see we're hitting all these targets like ratios, rates, decimals, percents, expressions and equations, positive and negative integers, and skill drawings. So some of these are actually 7th grade standards. And if we could go to the next slide, in 7th grade, we cover all the major 7th grade content, which includes proportional reasoning. We really get students much more fluent with positive and negative numbers, solving multi-step equations. And we take about a third of the 8th grade content and cover it in 7th grade, which includes equations and transformations. And all of that leaves us enough space, if we go to the next slide, for 8th grade. When students come to 8th grade, really like what you saw in the video, the idea of algebra, which got started in much younger grades, are really showing up in 8th grade. So we take a lot more time to develop variables, to develop relationship functions between variables. And students also have the idea of the option of doing this optional course called Algebra Seminar, which happens once a week. And through both the 8th grade curriculum and the Algebra Seminar, we're able to give students a pretty full algebra experience so that when they go to high school, they'll be prepared to take classes if they so desire, and they so appropriately place out of algebra if that's possible. So in the next slide, you'll see that even in algebra, even in 8th grade math, we still start everything with context. So in this one, students are measuring how many cups it'll take to stack up to the table, a student desk in their classroom. So this is the first lesson we did when we introduced the linear functions, linear equations that are not proportional. So you'll see students measuring, playing with cups, making estimates. So in this context, they really see where the different pieces of linear equations come into play. And even in Algebra Seminar, if you go to the next slide, when we learn the foundation of some of the foundational skills of algebra, like factoring, multiplying polynomials, we still have students work through the context. So you'll see them working with actual objects, a geometric object called algebra tiles, building tiles, looking at the area and perimeter of these figures to really get a tactile feeling of what multiplying and adding polynomials mean. So I hope you get a sense of how the thorough line from elementary to middle school mathematics is. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Thank you.
Jay-Z. All right. On behalf of our art program, LBP is going to speak to our lower school art.
Hi, everybody. I'm LBP. I'm not Tiffany or Sadie. There are two magical art instructors. Normally, Tiffany Russell gives this speech. She's the K through 5th grade art teacher, and she's also the parent of a 2nd grader. So she wears a couple of different hats. So starting in 2nd grade, students have dedicated time in the art studio. So they leave their kindergarten classroom to go to the art studio. And during that time, they do drawing, painting, sculpting, designing, weaving, problem solving, which comes up a lot in the art world, critical thinking, and they study a really wide variety of multimedia artists from cultures all around the world. So not only are they exploring art, but they're exploring the globe. The arts program and curriculum at SFS really focuses more on the process of art and the development of skills and concepts that students will be able to take with them beyond the arts classroom instead of just the final art product that we all love to display in our house. Projects range from step-by-step skill development to open-ended projects where students sort of have a free range to really express themselves and explore their artistic identities. Starting in kindergarten, they begin to develop skills by using lots of things through art, color, shape, line, form, value, space, and then they build on those skills through drawing, painting, collage to create abstract and realistic objects of art as well. You can go to the next slide. Thanks. They really start developing skills by using elements of art that I previously mentioned, but those foundational skills are used later to really explore these 3D images that you see on the screen. So 3D clay sculptures, they're decorative and they're functional pieces of art. So they might be things like, if you look in the bottom right-hand corner, this is an artist's palette that's designed specifically by a student to honor their own interest, and a cup for them to dip their brush in as well. They explore 2D and 3D elements through clay. They use hand building techniques, and then they learn the whole process of working with clay, from wedging to final glazing of the pieces, and then the kiln is there in the room, so they see how that experience is. And often those parts are incorporated into a larger unit. So they might create a clay dinosaur if they're working in arts class, but that clay dinosaur is going to be incorporated in a prehistoric unit in 1st grade. So it's very cross-curricular, and they might use self-portraits from art class to be part of an identity unit as well. You can go to the next slide. So you can see it's very incorporated in the rest of their school day, not as own separate thing, but it really living in the student's life. Skills are continually developed through textile, art, from weaving and sewing to upcycled, movable, dancing characters. And these are projects that challenge students to really create unique designs and support students' development in new and creative ways. And they're really designed to foster students' solid understanding of form and how many parts are assembled to make a whole. And by solid, I mean also that physical expression of holding something and doing something and making something that's usable. The sewing and weaving processes start with students designing their own patterns, and they might even be creating their own loom structure. And so there we'll see the incorporation of lots of things like math and measuring that's required. I shouldn't say math and measuring, they're one and the same. They choose their own fabric, or they might choose their own yarn as well. So they're really expressing themselves and getting some agency worked in there. Those projects support the development of over-under structure of sewing. Pattern making, sewing, and weaving also support brain and fine motor development, which are fundamental in other elements of student life. You can go to the next slide. So cross-curricularly, the arts department, so that's the music and arts teachers, work closely with classroom teachers to fully integrate, like I've mentioned previously in some of the other instances, the art into other areas of the school life and school curriculum. In second grade, a great example, during the spring semester, students study birds and they become bird experts, and they are all about birds. It's magical, actually. They're assigned a bird. They do a really deep dive into studying the bird. So they're researching it and writing about it, but they're also drawing and painting a realistic representation of the bird. They're doing illustrations, and then they create a life-size wingspan drawing of these birds as well. And all of this gets incorporated to a bird show that the families are invited to enjoy. In fifth grade, they take on a refugee experience through literature, poetry, and art. So the students really are seeing art as a way to process what they're learning in other parts of their school life. In art, we support classroom curriculum by asking them to map their own journeys from home to SFS, and later using Worsonshire's poem, Home. And they're asked to take on a really first-person perspective of that refugee experience to illustrate a line from her poem using embroidery and fabric to create a textile art piece. I'm going to pass it off to the music team, and you'll hear from someone from the music team, James.
All right. Thank you, Laura. James is up next to speak about our amazing music program.
Hi, Tony.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. So I'm here talking for myself and also my colleague, Sophia. We teach all the grades of music at the school, and we alternate every grade. So I'm teaching the littlest kids up to the middle school age. And our philosophy, you could go to the next slide, is called Orff-Schulwerk. It's a way of thinking about music where you're really inviting kids to create and think creatively and come up with their own ideas that then turn into musical projects. And so this is a diagram from a book that I wrote about creative play in music education. And it kind of shows like we're starting in the center with in this case, with the voice very close to the child's physical experience of voice and body movement, a lot of physical experience of music, starting with themselves and then kind of going out to making rhythms and patterns with their bodies, clapping and snapping, and then going out into other instruments that are very accessible and easy technique instruments that can give them a whole variety of sounds. And then finally, we have a big ensemble of pitched instruments, xylophones and recorders and other things that all the kids play. And it's a very accessible ensemble that allows them to kind of not only learn music quickly, but also get their own ideas out into my father's calling. They get their own ideas, in composition and creative projects. So I just wanted to show you a little example, next slide, of something that you could start. Like, this is a chant I might use in kindergarten music class. So if you can imagine, you have if you happen to have a colorful scarf around, you can pick it up. But I'm doing this chant showing the mussel shell. That sounds like this: mussel shell, mussel shell. And then I unfurl it: Medusa, Medusa, sea anemone, sea anemone, bloop, 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 and back into my hands. And that's an example of something that is like a material that we'd give kids through their experience, through playing with the scarves, through their voices, through their bodies. And then it's something that we could build on. So in second grade, we built a music performance around these ocean paintings that were in the hallway at the time. There was an art project. And so let's play a little bit of this video. This is like, these are second graders playing on the xylophones, chanting, singing a melody that went to this mussel shell song. And it's their performance contribution to the to celebrating what the painting project that was in the hallway by many ages of artists.
Who will swim in an indigo sea? Airy wrinkles, urchins, anemone. Sea turtles rise in a turquoise bay. Ocean paintings in the school hallway. Jellyfish float and hammerheads glide. Sea otters frolic in the foamy tide. Hermit crabs hide and seaweed sways. Ocean paintings in the school hallway. Mussel shell, Medusa, Medusa. Sea anemone, sea anemone. Bloop, 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 bloop.
All right, Tony, I think we should stop there. Just to give you a little taste of something a little bit older, this is a choreography project that fifth graders did last year, where they were looking at the elements of dance and of body shapes. And so they had to create a shape with a group, and then they had to adapt it to this piece of music that's about the aquarium. So I thought I'd show you that is in the theme of the underwater thing. And then I think I have to. We added a few digital jellyfish. All right, I think we have to stop. Sorry, because of the time. These are just some like little quick pics of the kinds of activities. You see the xylophones, you see kids dressed up for a play. Next slide. And you could go to the next slide, Tony. And these are more just examples of kids engaged in drama and visual art relating to drama, puppetry, and plays, which they're involved in. And then I think there's one last slide. I'm not going to show you this video, but it's a project with young children that my colleague Sophia did that was inspired by Kandinsky, and kids are moving with circles and then drawing their movement patterns on paper, and just showing we're going back and forth a lot between visual and physical experiences and musical ones. So that's a little taste of the fun that we have.
Thank you, James. Thank you so much for sharing about the music program.
Sure.
Next, we have Jalen speaking about our STEAM program.
Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Jalen Allen. I'm the 4th through 6th grade STEAM teacher, and I have the great honor of being an alumni of the San Francisco School as well. The STEAM department, it's 4 people. We have Amy, who does K through 3 STEAM, me, 4 through 6, Eugene holding it down in 7th and 8th grade, and then Carly supports us all, advising us, making sure that all of our curriculum is aligned, and we have an academically rich program. We are the youngest department of the school, so we are really just a love letter to everything SFS. Our program builds on the school's foundation of empathy and creativity, integrating technology and engineering across the curriculum. And really, we're about empowering students to feel confident with the technical skills and be innovative problem solvers. Your students' journey in STEAM will start right here in the field station. It is an outdoor classroom in a space we call the Adventure Playground. And because it's an outdoor classroom, one, you can do super messy things and then hose it down at the end of the day, which is a teacher's dream. I don't know if you've ever had to make something that's sticky and then had carpet, but it never comes out. But here with the wood, we just power wash that thing down and the next class comes on in. But in being an outdoor space, students get access to a lot of the amazing things our space has to offer. Hit the next one, Tony. Starting with native plants. We've invested in having a lot of California and San Francisco native plants in that area. So students get to be hands-on with all types of different fauna and flowers, exploring them. Next slide. And also hanging out with animals. We have chickens year-round, and every year we get a visit from 2 young goats who live in the Adventure Playground for a few weeks. And the whole time students are getting to interact with them, care for them, learn about the adaptations that make these creatures special. All along the way, doing experiments that relate to them, problem solving and how to better support them, and creating and fostering a love for the environment. Next slide. And most importantly, we are the dirty class. An outdoor space means there's plenty of time for mud and exploring. Students here are making rivers in the sand pit, adjusting the rivers. Later in the week, they'll build bridges and turn it into a small town. So STEAM is really a place where students get to explore, create, and just have the excitement and fun of school. Next slide. At the same time, we do have a rich curriculum where we focus on real-world problem solving. So those native plants from earlier, they need pollinators. And what happens if a pollinator isn't in the area? So the students right here are designing hand pollinators for their flowers, which are in different sized beaker tubes. So through the design process, students learn about a problem, try to create a solution, try to build something, and then if it doesn't work, how can we adjust, adapt, and move forward? Next slide, please. And learning through play. So while it is challenging and it is also very fun. Here students are messing around with chemistry and playing. If we make a bubble wand a heart shape, will we get heart-shaped bubbles? Unfortunately not, but they do work on making a formula to make the biggest bubble possible. Students are working on their chemistry skills, trial and error, working with others. While it seems like fun, they are building life skills. Next slide, please. And at the end of the day, elementary STEAM is all about sparking curiosity, whether it's coding, chemistry, light, or physics, students are going to walk away knowing that they have the skills to take on any science that comes for them, whether they already have known it or they are about to learn it. They have the skills to take on challenges and are going to be curious learners. Next slide. STEAM continues all the way through our school. Once students get to 4th grade, they move upstairs to a space called the workshop, where we can do a little bit more. In this one, students are working on dissections. In 4th and 5th grade, we learn about anatomy. We eventually get to real organs, but we start with fruit. So everyone can chop up a piece of fruit, and it's a great way to learn dissection skills. So students here are chopping up a kiwi, making sure they record it, taking data points, all necessary lab skills. Next. And then we hit all the NGSS standards. So students are going to learn about electricity. Next slide. We're going through this now. Tech skills all the way from kindergarten. We focus on the skills of computational thinking, not the tech that comes with it. So kindergarten coding looks a lot different than middle school coding. So in kindergarten, you'll see a lot of hands-on real-life coding of your classmates, giving instructions to do a task, not focusing on the screen, but the skills that they need later. Right here, you can see a student is working on her 3D modeling. She was making a tornado structure. So the way she was able to present it, she built it and had her 3D model. Next slide. Engineering is a huge part of it. The design process. How are we able to see a problem? How are we able to study it? And how are we able to solve it? Whether that's working on real life problems or an imaginary story where we are escaping a deserted island, making boats out of found materials. This is a 6th grader. They spent the first half of the year learning about measurement. Part of that included density. So they used all their understanding of density to try to build a boat. The final was much more dramatic. We have a kiddie pool. There's a sea monster, also known as me, who stands in the pool, whacking the boats as they move across, because we like to have fun. The A is for art, but it also means that we can be creative with what we're doing here. Next slide, please. Then we're going to make sure your students are ready for high school. So middle school science is going to hit all the topics of physics, biology, chemistry, earth sciences. Students are going to be ready for whatever high school they choose to go to. And finally, once students go through our program, next slide, we make sure they have the lifelong skills for whatever they're doing. Whether your student chooses to become a scientist or an engineer, we all need the skills of problem solving as adults. How are we able to think critically about something? How are we able to deal with something when it doesn't work? How are we able to create the ideas in our head? So that is what the STEAM program is all about. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Jalen. Thank you for letting us know about STEAM. Really appreciate it. All right, up next, we have Adriana presenting on our Spanish program.
Thank you, Tony. Hola a todos, buenas noches. I am the school, lower school interim teacher for Spanish program. And I want to present what we do in the lower school. I'm teaching from preschool to 4th grade. And then in the pictures, you can see like an example of what we do in class. We use a lot of hands-on activities, and we follow a routine. I do teach a class, and in Spanish, some of the kids don't even know I speak English. I am a native Colombian, so they believe I don't speak English. It's not like when they need, I do speak, but then I try as much as use tools or hands-on things for them to understand what I'm trying to say. You can change it like this next. So as I was saying, I use we use projects where the kids can create and then use the words that they're learning hands-on. Pretty much I use music and puppetry, and I think we do a lot of projects cross-curricular with other teachers and also with older students. We did a project with the 8th graders and 2nd graders. So it was very meaningful for the kids, like be with the older students, listening what the older students were speaking in Spanish. So it was very good for their experience and then the language. And next, please. We just had the Hispanic Heritage Month. And so the kids are learning Spanish. Also, they're learning about the culture of the Spanish and the Spanish-speaking countries. And what the goal of the Spanish program is for the students to familiarize and engage with the language and the culture of the Latino, the Hispanic cultures. And all the themes that we do are relevant to the students and with current events, like when we do the Hispanic Heritage Month, or they're learning about Dia de los Muertos, things that are relative for them. So next one, you can switch it. So this is kind of like what the kids are doing from preschool to 8th grade. The intensity of the Spanish program increases, and then the level of proficiency when they get off of 8th grade, some of them are going to Spanish 2, 3, or 4. It depends of each high school has different measurements, but and the intensity in middle school is a lot higher than in the lower school. And that was it. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Adriana. Really appreciate you speaking about our Spanish program. Last but not least, on our presenters, we have Melissa Holman-Kursky speaking on our cultural rituals and traditions.
Hi, everyone. I'm Melissa, the K-4 educational therapist and social emotional learning teacher, possibly with the longest title in the school. I'm also a 5th grade parent and have been at SFS since 2010. Next slide, please. So I wanted to start by talking a little bit about what social emotional learning is and how it connects to tradition, because this might not be the most natural pairing. But SEL is children's and adults' ability to develop self-regulation skills. So self-regulation is anything from managing emotions and having the size of a reaction that matches the size of the situation, to making effective decisions, having healthy interpersonal relationships, and feeling and expressing empathy, which are actually 2 separate skills. And in the K-12 school setting, this also includes being able to stay on task and other executive functioning skills, and learning socially acceptable, or what we would call expected, behaviors. So how does this connect to tradition? Well, when traditions and rituals are inclusive, they give children a sense of safety and predictability, as well as a sense of belonging. And they help children look ahead to the future, because while the future is never certain, there are certain things that they know to look forward to at different times of year. It also sets community norms about how we celebrate and how we handle times of difficulty together. Next slide, please. So a little bit about beginnings and endings. Having rituals around the beginnings and endings of things recognizes the importance of transitional moments in our life, and it lets communities project forward together optimistically. It lets us reflect backwards with a little more wisdom. And for many people, transitions are scary. They're an opportunity to grow. There are many great things about them, but for a lot of children, the beginning of the school year can be really scary. You're stepping into a new
environment, there's new expectations. It's been 3 months and friendships have changed, but everyone's hoping for the best. And the end of the school year can be a big deal also. You're leaving what's familiar. You won't know for a couple of months what the next year is going to look like. So to that end, at SFS, we have some beautiful and also humorous ways that we celebrate the beginning and end of the year. The first one you're seeing are the opening day ceremonies. So on the first day of school, K-8 teachers and students pass through an archway of red Tibetan flags that you can see on the left there. And those are held often by parenting adults and even alumni who come back and are part of this tradition that they remember. They walk into the community center where they are greeted by the entire SFS staff, dancing and singing. As you might be able to tell, the infusion of music at SFS is kind of its own tradition, and the opening day ceremony is no exception. Next slide. The sound of these gongs welcomes us into every year and lets us bid farewell at the end of the year. So in the opening ceremony, the youngest student in elementary and the oldest student in middle school collaborate to sound the gongs separately and then in unison, which represents the many voices in the room coming together in one beautiful chord. On the right, you see another can you go back? Thanks, Tony. On the right, you see another long-standing SFS tradition, the water ceremony. One student from each grade lines up holding a glass, and the oldest student, the 8th grader, pours some water into the 7th grader's glass, holding back just a little for themselves. And then the 7th grader pours into the 6th graders, on and on, all the way down to kindergarten. And this is representing the experience and knowledge that the 8th graders and the older students have to share with the younger ones, also recognizing that you can't pour from an empty glass. Once it gets to the end of the line, the kindergartner pours theirs back into the 1st graders to the 2nd graders, and so on all the way up, showing that our youngest students bring a fresh perspective and new ideas that even the old 8th graders may need to see with fresh eyes. Next slide. At the end of the school year, we have a gong as well. This time, in addition to the traditions within each classroom, every classroom teacher has the chance to speak publicly about their class, ending by ringing a gong to send them on to the next grade. And then on a less serious note, there's also the mud pie tradition that students look forward to every year, where they have to rise to the challenge of not laughing while the music teachers sing ridiculous songs and make faces to try to crack them up. Their prize, if they keep a poker face, and everyone always does, is to have a delicious mud pie with ice cream, chocolate sauce, and Oreos. And then everyone lines up at the end of the day for yet another tradition, the formerly known as hug line that has become a hug, high five, fist bump, pleasant wave, or hearty nod from a comfortable distance line. Next slide. This is one that is truly near and dear to my heart. There are so many advantages to having students spend time in mixed age groups. Research shows that younger children learn a lot from watching, listening to, and playing with older children. And socially, they're more likely to take important feedback from an older child than they are from adults even. Littler children who can have a hard time regulating their emotion have a chance to see how older kids handle similar situations and are able to learn from that. But the benefits are definitely not one-sided. For older students, mixed age play allows them to assume greater responsibility and practice nurturing behavior in real time. They're able to develop leadership skills that you can really only develop by leading. So you see in this picture some early mixed grade meetings that take place within classes that are closer in age. Like on the left is a 1st grader sharing math work with a kindergartner.
More formally, in first grade, students receive their own fourth grade buddy, and that's a partnership that continues together throughout the next few years and also comes together in a larger school family. So on the right, you see a fourth grader with his first grade buddies learning a new improv game. Next slide. Sometimes the buddies collaborate in academic content, like this is of an engineering design challenge where they were tasked with building the tallest structures possible using only index cards and tape. Keep your eyes on those two first graders in the middle there. Next slide. And in the middle there are the same kids as fourth graders, now with their own first grade buddies doing the same challenge. And part of the amazing thing about now having many years of generations of buddies is that as each class reaches fourth grade, they've spent a lot of time thinking about their own experience, what kind of buddies they want to be, how they might want to copy their older buddies or what they might want to change, and bring a really thoughtful lens to that relationship. Next slide. As time has gone on, we've been able to continue these relationships into middle school. So here are third graders and sixth graders working on Venn diagrams about how they're similar and different. And it's really lovely to see how invested the older students stay in the relationship and how seamlessly they incorporate all of the new sixth graders into these longstanding friendships. Next slide. When kids are the oldest in elementary in fifth grade, they take on some intergrade responsibilities. And one of the big ones is planning our regular school families time. So there are about 2 to 3 students from each grade, along with a faculty member who come together to play games, do activities, celebrate holidays. And the fifth graders plan the entire thing. It's pretty amazing. And now having a fifth grader, seeing the amount of thought and work that goes into it is fantastic. They set the expectations for the group. They have several activities that they've planned each time. They bring everyone together for a family cheer at the end. And they often gain a lot of appreciation for how hard their parents and teachers work. So that is another wonderful benefit. Next slide. Last but not least, a little bit about SFS and social and civic awareness. So creating a safe space for students to be able to talk about big topics like identity, culture, privilege, power, and human rights is incredibly important. And equally important is taking into account where they are developmentally at any given time. The part of the culture at SFS is caring deeply about the world and the living things that inhabit it. And this is expressed differently at different ages. Next slide. One way we can show caring throughout the grades is through participation in large events like the annual SFS contingent marching in the SF Pride Parade, or on the right is one of many groups of families that chose to attend the Women's March together. Throughout the years, students learn many ways to have their voices be heard in meaningful and respectful ways, whether that's writing persuasive letters to public figures in second grade or traveling to the American South on a civil rights trip in 8th grade. Next slide. As citizens, we know that whether we agree or disagree with each other, voting is a fundamental right that we should both appreciate and exercise. So during different election cycles, students have marched with nonpartisan signage or created flyers for the neighborhood, encouraging others to vote. Our elementary also embarks on a deeper dive into the voting process, including in older elementary, learning about the Electoral College, and even as young as first grade and kindergarten, learning about different city and state propositions in age-appropriate language and participating in voting with their own version of the San Francisco ballot. Next slide. One of the many ways that families support the school's humanitarian focus is the annual week of service that our public purpose committee organizes. And this can be up to 10 different opportunities throughout the week to engage with the Portola neighborhood and the greater San Francisco community more deeply. In the past, families and classes have partnered with organizations like SF Parks and Rec, the SF Marin Food Bank, the Surfrider Foundation, and St. Anthony's to engage in projects around San Francisco. Our second graders became reading buddies to preschoolers at the Portola Family Connections. Fifth graders helped prepare McLaren Park for the SF MoMA Soapbox Derby. And those are just a few of the projects that have taken place recently. And with that, I think we are on to our alumni panel.
Thank you, Melissa. Really appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you.
All right. So up next, we have our amazing alumni. We have June, Rowan, and Nola joining us. So I would like them to introduce themselves, let us know what school they're at and what they've been up to since they left the San Francisco school. So why don't we start with, I see Nola, so why don't we start with Nola? And you might actually recognize Nola from some of the pictures in the last presentation.
Hi, I'm Nola. I graduated last year, and I'm at the Head School in Oakland. And yeah, I had a great time at SFS, and I've been having a great time at Head too.
Thank you. Maybe June, are you on, June?
Yeah, I'm right here. Hi, I'm June. I graduated in 2022, getting graduation dates mixed up. And I currently go to the International High School.
And what have you been up to?
I have been writing a lot, actually. Last year, I finished a novella, and I'm currently on the lookout for publishing, but you know.
Congratulations. And Rowan.
Rowan, I'm a junior at University High School. I graduated in 2022 as well. At the moment, I've been doing a lot of running, both cross country and track, and yeah, a lot of traveling too.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. So the first question is, can you share a time when you went home excited to share what you learned at school? And we're thinking about your time here at the San Francisco school.
Should I go first?
I can go. I'll go first.
Okay. You can go.
Okay. In second grade, the letters that were mentioned a couple minutes ago, I wrote mine to Mayor Edley at the time about bike lanes in the city. And my teacher had really helped me kind of flesh out the letter as much as a second grader can do, kind of emailing, I think it was mailing it actually to the mayor at the time, kind of just, and it was really like inspiring because we were able to convey an idea that we were passionate about at such a young age. And the teachers were all really encouraging to, you know, help us send these letters and write something that's persuasive. Ultimately, I didn't hear back from the mayor, unfortunately, but it was just a fun experience and it was good to learn how to write these letters.
Thank you.
I can go. In 7th grade, we were learning about mitosis, and my friend and I thought that it was really cool. So we wrote like a rap about it, and we performed it for Eugene, and I performed it for my parents, and it was just like a creative way that we were learning the material, and I thought that was really fun.
Awesome. Thank you.
Something I remember in 4th grade, there was a unit on classification, and I think you got to choose an animal from the ocean that you wanted to study. And I remember I chose the giant squid, and oh my God, so cool. I still remember all the facts. And yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
Awesome. Thank you. Who is a teacher that stands out to you from the San Francisco school and why? Go for it, June.
Okay. I've been waiting for this question. Eugene, he is such a good teacher. He really is. As Nola mentioned, mitosis and just all the physics and biology that we learned throughout that middle school period prepares you so well for high school. And yeah, I thought that that was just brilliantly done by him. And I hope that that curriculum is still the same.
He's adapting and changing, but a lot of it's still there. Rowan, how about you? Who's a
Yeah.
teacher that stands out for you?
I think Molly, my first grade teacher, definitely stood out to me. Going into first grade, I wasn't too into reading, writing, math, or anything like that. I always liked to just play outside, go hang out on the adventure playground with my friends. But when it came to class time, that wasn't always my thing at the
Right.
time. But I think Molly really helped me understand like I can channel that energy into the classroom too and learn about like all these different experiments that we were doing. I think the trilobites experiment like stood out to me. That was really fun. Also something I told my parents about when I came home.
Oh.
But yeah, Molly was really just able to kind of help me channel that like energy outside the classroom into all these classroom subjects.
Very cool. Nola?
I think a teacher that really stood out for me would be Talia. She was my 5th grade teacher, and I just remember loving 5th grade. We did a really powerful refugee unit where we got groups and we became like a refugee family, and we had to like cross the border and like get asylum, and that was just like really powerful, and it was a creative way to learn about refugees. And Talia was also my cross country coach, and she really pushed me to like be my best self. So I really love Talia.
Oh, I love hearing about that. Can you all think of how SFS has instilled adaptability and resilience in you? Why don't we go with Rowan? Why don't you lead with this one?
Yeah. So I was away. I lived in London for grades 5 through 7 for me, and I took Chinese while I was abroad. But then when I came back to SFS only offers Spanish, or they did when I was there at least. I'm not sure if that's still the case, but all right. And so when I came back, my Spanish was very rusty to say the least. Um, I basically knew nothing at the time, but I was thrown into an 8th grade Spanish class, and the teachers were really helpful. They like kind of helped me structure the way I would think about the language and how to approach it from a place where I was behind the rest of the class. Um, Ultimately, I did have to like persevere through the class and kind of just get through it, try to maintain pace with the class while still being behind. But the teachers really helped me kind of still stick with the class, even though a lot of the time I understood nothing.
June.
All right. I think the physical education program actually. I admittedly was never a really sporty person, but I feel like I think it was mentioned in the presentation, but it's probably called something different now. It was like Olympics Day, and you did activities with the 8th graders, and they led it, and that was always such a blast. And I think that was one of the main times that I really enjoyed like being super like active and running around and doing all these fun activities, and also bonding with the 8th graders. I thought that was really great.
Awesome. Nola.
I remember in like 6th grade maybe, or probably lower, maybe like 4th grade, we were learning about division, and I had learned to do it like long division, but the way they were teaching it, it was like a different way to divide numbers. So I had to like change the way I knew, but it really helped me in the long term because I now knew 2 ways to do division. And definitely with like the STEM program, there's lots of different ways to get to the answer, and SFS like really helps you show your work and like find all the different like ways to get to the solution, not just find the solution. So I think that's really served me well.
Awesome. Thank you. How would you all say that SFS has prepared you for high school? And Nola, you can lead with this one.
I've only been in high school for like a quarter of a year, but SFS has definitely like prepared me intellectually. Like a lot of the stuff in my classes is review because of the material we learned at SFS, but also SFS has like prepared me socially. So definitely a lot easier to like meet people and connect with people after going through SFS.
Definitely. Maybe Rowan up next.
Yeah, I think SFS did a great job of preparing me for high school. The admissions process felt really smooth. There was like lots of support from the teachers, and it kind of like at first going into the process felt very unfamiliar, but all the teachers were really helpful and kind of helping me understand, and my family too, kind of understanding what the process was like, what's expected of us, and ultimately kind of like independently approaching it while still knowing that I have all the support of teachers and family behind me. And then academics wise, the school did a great job too. I was able to take a algebra seminar course in 8th grade that the school offered too, which allowed me to test into a higher math level than the basic one. So I'd say the school overall did a great job.
Nice. June.
All right. I think same as them, intellectually prepares you very, very well in math, especially. I think in freshman year, at least, there was a lot of stuff at the beginning of the year that was, as Rowan said, or was that Nola? Probably both of them, like revision and review, and you really grasp the concepts very well at SFS because the teachers explain it to you, and you really get a lot of opportunities to ask them and clarify with them just to make sure that you fully understand what's going on. And while that might be a little bit less available in high school, that definitely prepares you very well at SFS because you have all that time to understand these concepts, and it, yeah, sets you up very well.
Thank you. Embracing diversity is in our mission here at SFS. When is a time that you felt embraced in ways that you might be different or saw it happening at school?
I can go.
Sounds
good. So as a part of the LGBTQ plus community, and when you're in middle school, naturally, those things don't always go the best together. But I thought that the school really was a safe environment. That was a place that I really felt that I could be myself and find friends that I thought really understood me, and also that the teachers were very accepting of it. And I didn't feel put down or anything like that from the school itself.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, June. How about Rowan?
Yeah, I think I speak German at home with all my family, with my mom especially. And the school really encouraged me to kind of embrace that. So at school, I was able to have projects where I would be able to kind of learn more about that history, language of my family, and also just kind of what it means to me. And I think the school just did a great job of allowing me to kind of explore that. Otherwise, I probably never would have.
Awesome. Nola?
I think that a space that like really helped me like accept my identity in the SFS community would be like a PISA, which is I don't know what you call it, like a club or an affinity that it meets like every Friday at lunch for the middle schoolers, and it's like for anyone who identifies as Asian. And in my class there were like a couple Asian kids, but I really liked being in a PISA because we got to eat Asian food, but we also got to talk about like our experience as an Asian person in the SFS community.
Those were all very cool. Thank you. Can you think of a time where you felt like a teacher or a staff member really got you or understood you, and how they supported you in your time here? Why don't we start with June?
Well, I'm pretty sure Coach Tiff still does just the upper school, but really connected so well with her. I remember there was a day where I had to step out of class, and she came out afterwards and she sat on the couch with me and we talked, and it was great. And I feel like you can really just bond so well with the teachers here, because they're so kind and so understanding and so empathetic and sympathetic.
Thank you for sharing that. Nola.
I have a lot. Definitely Tony. My friend Maggie and I would always love, after we like graduated from middle school, we would love to like go to her classes and play with the smaller kids, which was really like fulfilling. And also Maggie Day, who was my third grade math teacher, and like I wasn't too thrilled with the topics we were learning, so she made space for me to like grow as a learner in math, and I really appreciated that. And then also, she doesn't work at the San Francisco school anymore, but the nurse Elisa, I just like I really connected with her, and my friends and I would always go to her office to talk to her when she wasn't busy, and she was just a friendly face in the SFS community.
Thank you, Nola. Rowan.
Yeah, I think you, Tony, like Nola said, when I was younger in PE, I think grades 1 through 4, you like really, I think just all the like ideas that you brought through in PE really resonated with me. And like similar to Molly, you really supported me with that transition from like athletics only and like playing outside only to kind of going into the classroom and really working. And so you also in PE, I remember I'd always like run a couple extra laps or do a little bit of something extra so I'd be a bit more tired going into the classroom and I'd be able to pay attention. And I think I really appreciate that looking back now, just having the opportunity to, I guess, further myself in the classroom too.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So there are a lot of parents on the call right now who are looking for school for their kids who are 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. Do you have any advice that you would give to these parents or guardians who are looking for school for their child? Any advice you could give them? Let's start with Rowan.
I think you know your child better than anyone else. And so it's spending the time to get to see these schools and seeing how they, I guess, how they are. And like ultimately just thinking if your child would enjoy it is like really important, kind of pulling these key aspects from the school. So for example, SOS has like the adventure playground. So if your child is the outdoors type, that's a great space for them to kind of learn and grow into their character. So just searching for things like that at every school is really important.
Thank you. Very good advice. Nola.
I'm obviously biased because I love SFS so much, but I would definitely say that if you are like looking to enroll your child at SFS, I would like have them go there as early as possible because while joining in like 6th grade or in elementary school is like obviously amazing, and you still get to be a giant part of the SFS community. I really appreciated just like being with the same people for a really long time because I made like lifelong friends, and I just really appreciated like my time in the community.
Thank you. And June, can you send them off with any wise words?
Well, what both of them said, absolutely. And I joined the school when I was 4, so also admittedly a little bit biased. But when you are that young, at least, you absorb other people like a sponge. It's great, and you get to make so many connections when you're that young. And I feel like whatever school that you do choose, SFS, will absolutely be suited for your kid, because at that age you can connect with people regardless. So wherever you decide to send your child, I'm sure that they will fit in and find a great sense of community and belonging.
All right. Well, June, Rowan, and Nola, we really appreciate you spending your evening with us. I know there's a million other things you could be doing, but we really do appreciate you coming back and giving your time and your perspective. It was a joy to see you on screen. We've known you all since you were so young. And I know that our prospective parents really appreciate hearing your point of view. So thank you for spending your time with us. We really appreciate it. We're going to send you off to the many things you could be doing. And we'll see you soon, hopefully on campus. Thank you and have a good night.
Have a good night.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. We have just some next steps to share. And I know that we're a little over time. So obviously, if you need to head out, feel free to head out. But we wanted to let you know of a couple of next steps or a few more ways to get a little more familiar with us. It was so great to see our alums. I've known them since they were 3 and 4. So it's so good to see them off in high school and doing really, really well. And it's just really, really great. So up next, we have a virtual cultural and community open house, which is really talking about how our families and parents can be involved in the SFS community. It's a great presentation. You'll hear from our family association, our affinity group leads, our parent panel. It's a really good presentation, another virtual one so that you can tune in. And if your children haven't seen the campus yet, we are hosting an open campus on December 14th, which is a Saturday. It's kind of like a self-guided tour. We'll set up a little scavenger hunt. It's a great way for the kids to come see the physical space. So highly suggest you get the family out on a Saturday to come see that. And then just as a reminder that applications are due January 6th. And then we'll move forward with the process after that. We know that we are a little over time. Chrissy and I will stick around for any questions that you all may have. We do appreciate you all sticking around for this evening. Otherwise, we'll send you off if you have to go, but thank you for being here tonight. Feel free to reach out with any questions or any next steps. We're happy to help with. Otherwise, have a great night and we'll see you soon. Hopefully we'll see you on a tour. We do have a tour this week. Hopefully we'll see you at the open campus or one of the next virtual events. All right. Take care. Have a great night.